What's poppin', y'all? I can't believe we're seeing Jay-Z spiral in real time, as well as Charlemagne, where Charlemagne's being made to look stupid because of Jay-Z's recent freestyle comments. So first, we're going to talk about the comments, and this is what he said. I'm not even going to bother playing the freestyle because I know how these guys play, but I'm going to quote it for you. And he says, "They run out of characters, had to bring back Cap again." And this is in reference to Colin Kaepernick. "But he took a check. I ain't even mad at him. But along with that check, you have to sign a non-disparagement. I'm the one they can't control." So here you have a contrast. And this is, you get a little bit of whataboutism and the other parts of the freestyle where he's like, yeah, you guys talking about Target boycotts, but you're on Meta and you're on, that's Facebook, and you're on YouTube and that's on Google. And it's just, this started 444. That's when these stupid, ridiculous things that sound genius to a dingbat moron started coming out of Jay-Z. Like he would talk about, man, you know, I bought an art piece for this much and I sold it for this much. And you know, if I bought a house in Dumbo, you know, I feel dumb though. And then I'm giving you all this game for $9.99, and you had geniuses talking about like, man, the amount of game Jay-Z kicking in 444, man, I can't believe it's $1 million worth of game. And how many of those people that were saying that, like, let's look back at their tweets that were saying that 444 10 years ago, how many of them are up now from some advice that Jay-Z gave, which is basically like, yo, buy low, sell high, you know? You should have kept your Pokemon cards when you were a little kid. You would have been up a lot now. Come on, man. But anyway, the funny part about this is because in the interview that Charlemagne did with Academics, he says something a little bit different about Jay-Z.
No, Charlotte can't get... Because Drake literally mentioned Jay-Z 4 or 5 times on Iceman. You know Nicki been going crazy.
What has Jay done?
You know,
Since we know y'all cool.
You know Nicki been going crazy on him for years.
She's been cool.
Dame Dash been going... It don't matter. Dame Dash been going crazy on him for years.
Back to him.
But response, they've been talking about him prior. So finally, I give you...
Jay-Z's not on Drake's radar right now. Like, you could tell he ain't get a response. You know Drake usually responds to a lot more people.
See, you trying to get my cortisol levels up.
No, he cleared the air.
Des, send him in. Send him in. Yo, he mentioned Jay 4 or 5 times on Iceman.
When?
You just referenced 2.
No. I know he referenced him, but like, you're acting like he's trying to go back and forth. Jay-Z went and did a freestyle diss URL.
I can't respond. I'm a rapper. I'm responding directly to your lyrics. The jig is up. Oh, word. Now you're looking at the wrong chart.
So in this one, he's saying that, and they're talking about the first freestyle where he talks about Oskino. He sent some shots at Drake. This was like a fun little freestyle that nobody really cared about after 36 hours. But he's saying that, yo, these guys, they kept coming at him. And Nicki Minaj was saying stuff about him. Drake's been, you know, he said the jig is up. You know, he's saying all of these bars. So he's just responding. Well, Kaepernick hasn't said anything. Kaepernick has never said anything about Jay-Z. So Charlemagne, tell me, why is Jay-Z mentioning Kaepernick? And this is just I think this is so disgusting and evil and just like serpent-like for Jay-Z to mention Kaepernick of all people, because this is one of those things that you could have just not mentioned at all and nobody would have cared. Like it would have gone, like the Target thing, you didn't need to address it. Like there are certain things that you just let them pass. Like for example, what's going on with Drake right now? Like Drake, he was taking a shot with some fangirl and she's like 19 or 20, I don't know. And then people are trying to come at him for it. It's like a little bit of a story. Drake's not going to address it. It's already been like, 48 hours. Nobody's going to care about it anymore. That's how you're supposed to handle this, Jay-Z. Like the Target, and Jay-Z has so much glaze that he could do downright evil multiple times and snake people, and people will cover up for him. So tiny things like this, nobody cares. But this is why it's so dangerous, because a day later, when it comes to TMZ, they would report that this was a bold-faced lie that Jay-Z said in his freestyle. And they said the following: Jay-Z is spitting fiction, not facts, when he claims Colin Kaepernick agreed to be silenced by the NFL. An allegation Jay-Z dropped live on stage at Yankee Stadium, and one refuted by sources speaking to TMZ Sports. And here they said, the shot at Kaepernick 7 years after he and the NFL reached a settlement had some fans wondering why now. But sources with direct knowledge tell TMZ Sports The bigger issue is Jay's wrong. Colin did not sign a non-disparagement agreement when he settled the lawsuit in which he'd claimed NFL teams were colluding to keep him out of the league. And then they post this tweet. And this tweet was sent out on November 23rd, 2020. So this is well over a year after he had signed this deal with the NFL where he got paid. And he says 1363 days of being denied employment, still putting in work. And TMZ goes on to say, Colin couldn't post about how many days it's been since the team hired him if he'd agreed not to say anything bad about the NFL. And this is where it gets really dicey, because Van Lathan was an individual who worked with TMZ, and he would tell the initial story of Rock Nation. We're not saying Jay-Z here specifically, but Jay-Z's company was trying to seed negative stories about Colin.
I know for sure, I'm not saying it was Jay-Z. I can't say that Jay-Z did anything, right? But I know for sure, that Rock Nation was seeding negative stories about Colin Kaepernick during the time that he was really in traction with Jay-Z. For sure. This is after the Rock Nation NFL deal has been announced. And give Harvey more credit than just with how he played this. I'll give him credit for the fact that he goes, hey, I just got this information on the phone. I know who was on the other end of the phone. I know who Harvey's Rock Nation contact is, right? I just got this information on the phone. And all of these things about Colin Kaepernick is what I just got told, right? And Harvey comes over to me and he says all of this stuff. And he's like, yeah, did you know that he actually doesn't really want to play? And I looked at Harvey and I said, look, I don't think that we here at TMZ should be getting in the middle of what's going on between Colin Kaepernick and Jay-Z. I think if we run what essentially was a hit piece on Colin Kaepernick, I don't think we have the cultural cachet to do that. Number one, to insert ourselves into the middle of that situation. And also, I think it's choosing a side in something that is literally at the core of a culture, of a Black cultural discussion right now. I don't think we should do it. He went and got back on the phone. And when he came back, there was a different story. And the story that ended up making it to TMZ was that Jay-Z somehow had the inside track on becoming an NFL owner because of his relationship with the NFL. And that ended up being the story. And the reason why that story went up is because it was still a story that kind of explained why he had decided to take the deal with the NFL. It was a story that made it make sense to people. Like, oh my God, maybe Jay-Z, as the owner of a team, can then put Colin on a team. Or maybe moving on from the kneeling situation is worth it because we're going to get a Black owner in the NFL.
The reason why I like Van Lathan, and I don't watch any of Van Lathan's content. If I see a clip here and there, I don't know if I agree with Van Lathan on many of the things that he says. He talks more about like social and political issues, which I do not really cover, nor care to watch content about. But Van Lathan is somebody I know is going to tell the truth. I don't think he cannot move like a Charlemagne. I do not see him moving like a Jay-Z. And you're asking yo, how can I tell? I can just tell. That's it. Just source is trust me, bro. I've never spoken to Van Lathan. No interest in speaking to him. Don't want to speak to anybody. Everybody leave me alone. Okay? How about that one? But he says that, and this is firsthand information. And they were trying to spin this story. So that just goes to show you this is consistent behavior with what's going on right now. They are very sensitive to the narrative and how are they going to plant and prepare a story for something that they're going to bring forth, which was people were like, wait, hold on. So people around Jay-Z, they were probably thinking, okay, we're going to get a lot of bad flack for throwing Colin Kaepernick under the bus and taking a deal with the NFL. So instead of throwing this hit piece won't go up by TMZ, but they'll publish that, Jay-Z might own a team. And I think at this time, they were also talking about Bill Cosby was going to buy NBC or something like that. before all that stuff happened with him. And that, it gets people excited. And does anybody even talk about Jay-Z buying? Do you even remember that Jay-Z was potentially going to buy an NFL team or any of those headlines? No, you don't, because it served its purpose and nobody's going to remember it. And that's how these guys move. But moving forward after TMZ disproves this, there was an article that was being cited by none other than Charlemagne. And this clip is going around.
There wasn't some type of confidentiality agreement signed.
Well,
between Cap and the NFL. This was from Charles Robinson. This is from Yahoo Sports, and he says that side signed a non-disclosure agreement agreeing not to speak publicly about details.
So I looked up the actual article because, you know, the funny thing about Charlemagne is, even in that interview with academics, this guy's a devil. Charlemagne, I do not want to be anywhere near this guy, honest to God. I need like a warlock, somebody with a spell to like grant something against me, because people like that, they really scare the hell out of me. So I looked up the exact article by Charles Robinson. It was written on February 15th, 2019. And you realize when Charlemagne says something, he says the name and like the author, and to somewhat give it a little bit more credibility. And then he reads it out, but he knows the people aren't going to look it up. But in this, it says, the league and Kaepernick's attorneys released a statement as saying that they had resolved the matter confidentially. As part of that confidentiality, it is believed both sides signed a non-disclosure agreement not to speak publicly about details of the case or settlement. Now, keep in mind, this is a non-disclosure agreement, which is very different from a non-disparagement agreement. Keep in mind, because now I have to show you guys Van Lathan responding to this whole thing coming up again.
There was reporting that was done by TMZ. Colin Kaepernick simply never signed anything that stopped him from disparaging the NFL. Never. As a matter of fact, there is evidence that after Colin Kaepernick settled his employment case with the NFL, that he continued to call out the league and be critical of them.
We've talked about it.
We've talked about them. Remember, Colin Kaepernick did a commercial, not a commercial, he did a television show where he compared the NFL Combine to a plantation, right? So Jay-Z in that regard is probably misinformed. The chances to me are very low that he got up there and said something that he knew wasn't true about Colin Kaepernick. That's not even the point. The point is, why would you say that in the first place?
Yeah.
If your purpose right now is to make Colin Kaepernick look like a sellout to the NFL, or someone who in some way had a nefarious motive for doing anything of any stuff that he did, the question is, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to do that?
Jay-Z's not misinformed. I think he's cutting him a lot of bail there when he says that, because, I mean, his boy Charlemagne was definitely misinformed or ill-informed when he got sent an AI site created by AI, written by AI, with AI avatars that he was citing for 3 weeks that he debuted. Yeah, that's a funny one. Charlemagne was definitely misinformed, embarrassing himself like that. Jay-Z wouldn't, he sends his cronies like Jeremy Hecht and those other fools to embarrass themselves online, because they're just pawns. Like, we can throw those on the board, get rid of them, it's okay. But the queen and the king, we have to make sure to protect them. The reason why Jay-Z is doing that is because Colin Kaepernick can't say anything. Because Colin Kaepernick can't come out and say, whoa, wait, guys, I didn't sign a non-disparagement. I signed this, because he actually signed a non-disclosure, which means that, like I read you guys, that article from the Charles Robinson, the Yahoo Sports guy that Charlemagne was quoting, he is not allowed to talk about the agreement that he signed with the NFL. So Colin Kaepernick can't come to the public and say, yo, Jay-Z's wrong. Look what I signed. Here's my contract. This has nothing to do. Here's my settlement. This has nothing to do with me saying anything disparaging about the NFL. I could still talk trash about the NFL if I wanted to. He can't do that because he signed a non-disclosure for the deal. And it is my belief and opinion that Jay-Z knows that he can't say anything. And that's why Jay-Z says non-disparagement, because people aren't going to look up the difference. Or people aren't even going to think that there's a difference. And they're not going to think that Jay-Z's going to like go to these types of lengths of nuance and wordplay. Granted, you should expect him to do that considering how brilliant of a rapper he is. And I just think it's so wrong because what has Colin Kaepernick ever done? And the funny thing is, a lot of people are saying, man, Colin Kaepernick hasn't spoken. Colin Kaepernick has never spoken. That was one of the big criticisms people had of him. Or not criticisms, but people were like, I never even heard Colin Kaepernick's voice. If I heard Colin Kaepernick's voice right now, I wouldn't recognize it. I've probably heard him speak once. He took a knee, and then he just got fed. He got fed like he got used as not even a pawn on the board. He was collateral damage. Unfortunately for Jay-Z to get what he wanted. And Colin Kaepernick has never been vocal ever. So to expect him to say anything right now, especially when he can't say anything because the only thing he could talk about is the deal, which he's not allowed to talk about, even if it's to disprove Jay-Z. So the whole thing is just absolutely ridiculous. And people will look this over. People will just move on to the next thing. But when you compound 10 plus years of things like this happening again and again and again and again and again and again, it's a snowball effect. Like, yeah, the amount of people that are defending Jay-Z are shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And with things like voting, which is he needed people to get votes to get the casino in Times Square, you need real people. You can't have narratives or alleged bots or alleged AI or things like that when it comes to getting people to vote for something that you want to push forth, whatever that may be. And that's why he's spiraling right now, because he realizes, oh, damn, I'm losing the grip that I had. But I think this is absolutely disgusting, bringing up Kaepernick whatsoever. That guy has been doing nothing but live his life. He's never said anything about Rock Nation. Yeah, maybe you could say like his wife, girlfriend, I don't know what's the status of their relationship. Maybe she's said something about them. Yeah, God knows how long. But you can't even cut bail like that. I think everybody found this distasteful. And if you didn't, then you seriously need to you don't need to get your head checked because there's nothing in there. But yeah, I'm going to see y'all on the next one.